Listen. I hope we shall have a very good discussion. And don't hesitate if you don't understand anything, because my accent is not exactly from Oxford, it's but from the Middle East, so it could be heavy at the time. Also, don't hesitate to ask tough questions and to make remarks. You know, we are in academic society, and I take this opportunity to say that although I'm from Israel, I'm Jewish. Nobody is perfect. But I still believe in academic studies, in academic life. I don't represent Israel. I don't represent any part of Israel. I represent scholarship. I happen to be an Israeli. But it shouldn't confuse anybody, because there is this kind of, ideas. If you are from Israel, you present the official view. No. Sometimes yes, depends on the circumstance. So this is, and I'm trying my best, I'll try my best to be impartial, as scholarly as I can, academic. And of course, nobody has the monopoly on the truth. Sometimes I may be making statements that are not, you don't like them. You can argue. I'll try to present the narratives of all sides, and it's a very complicated issue, as you can see. I'll try also to establish the facts, as this historian Kerr said many years ago. Facts are sacred, opinion is free. You can afterwards have your opinion. We can argue, because again, it's not very, very simple. Now, also, it's a very memorable day for me to come here. I'm not overshadowing the victory of Trump, I hope, because it's going to be very memorable for many people, for me also, especially about the combination of both. And I must be candid with you, I'm not very happy about it. To make an understatement. Because, again, I don't know how things will develop. And I know some leaders, I worked with quite a number of leaders. Professor Kumar mentioned that I was an advisor to many, and which is true, but they never accepted my advice. Or rarely they accepted my advice. So take it with a grain of salt about, but again, from the rhetoric of Mr. Trump, and regarding my topic, it makes me concerned. Also, we deal with Islam. He hates Muslims. Christians, of course, is a Christian good or not, I'm not sure. But Jews, he supports the Israeli government and Israel control / occupation of Jerusalem, or Jerusalem, which is, in my analysis, is not good news. Because if you want to reach some sort of understanding, you have to compromise, to share. And as you will see later, the three parties, especially Muslims and Jews, they want a monopoly. They don't want to share. Some do. Now, I'll start my talk by quoting Mr. Sadiq Khan, the newly elected mayor of London. He's from Indian Pakistani origin. And he visited the Temple Mount, or Haram al-Sharif in Arabic. Everybody's got his own name. And then he wrote in the New Statesman sometime earlier, I quote, "The Abrahamic site of deep sanctity became one of the world's most contested religious sites." True. I'm not sure about you. You have also some problems. I'm not going to involve myself in it. I'm a guest only, so I don't want to take sides. But it's very little vis-a-vis Jerusalem. And I want to tell you something, seriously. There are rabbis and muftis, Jews and Muslims, politicians, and even, and I talked to them, two former heads of the Shabak, the General Security Service of Israel. Can you imagine? You know what they said? On record, I heard them. If Jewish fanatics damage the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Temple Mount, it's going to lead to an Armageddon, a Muslim-Jewish Armageddon. And you know what? It could happen. Already there was an attempt in '84 by a Jewish fanatic to blow up the temple. And in '69 there was this crazy Australian who came, set fire on Al-Aqsa. But they were not as major. But this can lead, on both sides you have fanatics who are willing to die for their cause. Jews to rebuild the temple, now the third temple, Muslims to keep Al-Aqsa and the temple mount, Haram Sharif, and also the Dome of the Rock. Now, you heard from my, quoting these rabbis and even politicians, but there is another view. You know, especially in Israel, Jews, 2 Jews, 4 views. very, very many views. And there are other views of the right wing in Israel that accuse Muslims for the tension, for the conflict in the Temple Mount, which of course is going to be my high topic. And they blame the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, Abu Mazen, who's the leader, the president. They blame especially Hamas for inciting. They blame also the Muslim movement in Israel. There is in Israel 2 Muslim movements. We don't have any one. We had 2 communist parties, 2 Muslim movements. One is in the north, one in the south. The north is more militant, and they are very much committed to Al-Aqsa. So many Jewish politicians blame them, and they put their leaders in jail already for expressing anti-Semitic views. So you have a very many views about this. Now, obviously, this topic is very complicated. And you know what? Very much committed. Hundreds, if not thousands of books and articles have been written on it. I'll try to my best to do some sense in this. And of course, many of these books are impartial, representing this point of view or that point of view. As I said, I'll try my best. If I don't succeed, you can correct me, to be balanced, to show the various approaches and tendencies. Now, when you look at it, ideally, this could be a site of coexistence, prosperity, cooperation, because you have 3 religions that respect the same thing. We mentioned Abraham, the forefather of Jews, Christians, Muslims. Jerusalem, very holy, sacred to all. So why don't we share? Why don't we declare Jerusalem as the capital of the world? And there are some people that really think in this way. And I must quote you some statement by a bunch of Palestinians and Israelis in Jerusalem in 1995, including Muslims, Christians, and Jews. I was there too in this rally, and it was in cooperation with Faisal Husseini. Faisal Husseini was one of the leaders of the Palestinians. He is the son of Abdul Qadir al-Husseini, in 1948, was one of the major commanders of the Arab forces against the Jewish state. And Faisal Husseini was one of them. Then he changed his mind. And remember, we were good friends. We cannot win. I mean, there is no military solution here. We have to coexist. Now, he and others organized this statement about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is ours, Israelis and Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. Our Jerusalem is a mosaic of all cultures, all religions, and all the periods that enrich the city, from the earliest antiquity to this very day. Canaanites, so the original, I'll come back to it, and Jebusites, and Israelites, Jews and Hellenes, Romans and Byzantines, Christians, Muslims, Jews and Mamluks, Ottomans and Britons, Palestinians and Israelis, they and all others who made their contribution to the city have a place in the spiritual and physical landscape of Jerusalem. Just one small passage more. Our Jerusalem must be united, open to all, and belonging to all its inhabitants without borders and barbed wire in its midst. Our Jerusalem must be capital of the two states, and that will live side by side in this country. West Jerusalem, the capital of State of Israel, and East Jerusalem, the capital of State of Palestine. Our Jerusalem must be the capital of peace. Great words, but
this is Faisal Hussein?
Not only Faisal Hussein. It's a bunch of Israelis and Palestinians. Faisal Husseini was leading the Palestinians, and there were some other on the Israeli side, including myself, and a joint communication. Wonderful, but it represents not very many Palestinians and Israelis. The situation is just opposite, unfortunately. I'm trying to show you what is the ideal situation. And this is, on both sides. You can see it also between the negotiations between the PLO and Israel and the Palestinians and Israelis. Until recently, 70% on both sides favored the two-state solution. Now it's down to 50. And this is without talking to Jerusalem. When you get to Jerusalem, 80% of the Israeli Jews, because Israelis are not only Jews, are also Arabs, 20%, 80% of the Israeli Jews want Israeli Jewish sovereignty all over Jerusalem, including the Haram al-Sharif, the Temple Mount. And among the Palestinians, the same picture. So the chance that two sides will come together. I had a dream that Mrs. Clinton, when she wins, she will press both sides. Obama also wanted to do it. He had a great idea. So remember his Cairo speech in 2009? Wonderful. Cooperation, interface, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, India, China, everybody. But he did very little. I thought maybe Hillary will do more, because there are different opinions in Israel. But one opinion is there must be some coercion, some pressure to do it. Because if you leave it to Israeli Palestinians, very small chance to do it. So now, no, he's not going to. In my opinion, I hope I'm wrong. He's going to do things worse by supporting one side over Jerusalem and what have you. Now, as I said earlier, not all, but many Jews and Muslims, less so Christians. Christians here are more moderate. I mean, we forget the Crusader time, of course, but they were very vicious at the time, in Ireland and other things. But otherwise, more mild. But the most struggle is between Jews and Muslims. And you can see it from also the relations to Abraham and Jerusalem. Now, thank you. The Jews regard Abraham, or it was called Avraham, or before that Avram, then there was an addition because of God, all kinds of things, of changes. I'll come back to it. Muslims call him Ibrahim, the same name, but everybody believes in him, but it's in a different quality. For Jews, is the founder of the nation. Although he was not Jewish. Also, we don't know whether he existed at all. Don't tell anybody. No archaeological evidence. Not only this, there are many other things that are not, you don't have any proof, but people believe in it. This is it. I remember I had once a debate with a journalist, a doctor of history in Israel, and he wrote a piece in the Yediot Ahronot saying Al-Aqsa is not important to Islam, and it doesn't appear in the Quran. Bloody fool. I remember myself, Surah 17, Ayah 2, speaks Al-Aqsa. Not only, and it's very important to Islam. And he said, yes, but yes, there are different versions whether Al-Aqsa was built there, by whom, and this and that. There is also a debate about it. I'll come to it later. And I say to him, doesn't matter whether it was there or no. 1.5 billion Muslims believe in it. This is it. This is the fact, the political fact. Like, is there evidence that Moses got the Torah in Sinai? No. I mean, there are different hills, beautiful hills, you've been there, that can be called Sinai. But who knows? Even speaking about Abraham, again, coming to our friend, is a tomb in Hebron. Any evidence that it was there? No. But people believe it, and people fight over it. And in 1994, this fanatic Jew, a doctor, physician from Brooklyn, Mr. Baruch Goldstein, went into the mosque and in cold blood shot 29 Muslim worshippers. And it changed very much the relations between Palestinians and Israelis. Hamas became very violent. Not that they are very peaceful in the beginning, but they had motives to do it. So it's so sensitive. Anyway, Abraham, according to what we know, is from the Bronze period, 1800 BC, and he was born in Ur, in Iraq. And this is very interesting because many Iraqi Jews say that they have more affiliation to Iraq than to Israel. Because Iraq, he was born there. And they lived there very happily. And they came there before Muslims. You know, after the destruction of the temple. Islam came only in the 7th century. So they are genuine Iraqi, so and so. So it's so very fascinating. Now, he, according also to Islam and to Judaism, he sort of smashed the idols that his father, this was his job, building idols, and he smashed them. And he also had signed a covenant with the Almighty, with God, Abraham. And for Jews, it's very, very, very important. And here there is something which is, again, very debatable, very sensitive. According to many Jews, not all of them, because you see, you have so many views that the Jews are the chosen people. Some people believe in it. I don't. Chosen people, what does it mean? Chosen people, does it provide them to do something without any limits? And this is true, unfortunately. It's in the Gemara, in the Talmud, other places, to look down on others. Terrible. But it happens, especially with religious people who believe, and they are religious people. And Abraham was, as I say, according to Judaism, he was the first Hebrew, and then Jewish, because it's a bit of confusion here. I mean, Judaism didn't exist at the time, but they sort of manipulate the text, and he was also the father of the Jewish people. The Hebrew people, yes. Jewish people, I'm not quite sure, but fine, just for your knowledge. And worse than that, the Almighty, according to the Bible, and if everybody believes in the Bible, I will take it with a grain of salt. It's not an historical text, but people take it as historical. According to Almighty gave Abraham and the Jewish people the entire land, Holy Land. You know, there are many names, Roman names, Arab names. We could call it the Holy Land or Palestine, so on and so forth. But according to them, and some Jews who believe in it, he gave them the land. First of all, Jerusalem, which means Jerusalem belongs to the Jews. Thanks very much. I put it here. Yeah, thank you. Jerusalem belongs to the Jews, and not only this, be careful. Almost we reach India. The land stretching from the Euphrates to the Nile. So Euphrates is not too far from you. I mean, a bit far, but some believe, fanatics, and I heard it in my own ears, that Israel should control not only the West Bank, they call it Judea and Samaria or Gaza, but also Transjordan, Syria, Iraq. And when I asked him, what are you going to do? It's not land, people. What are you going to do with millions of people? No answer. Yes. I mean, again, some of these people, I sometimes suspect that the religious people are really hopeless. On both sides. Because the Hamas also wants to destroy Israel and whatever. I'll come to it later. Now, according to this idea, Abraham was given by God the entire land, including Jerusalem. And as you know, according to the Bible, if you don't know, it's Abraham was asked by God to sacrifice his son, Isaac, in Jerusalem, in the Temple Mount. They call it Har Moriah. There are many names. And of course, there is a debate. The Muslims, in the Bible, it says Isaac, Ishaq. In Islam, in the Quran, it doesn't say the name. But the interpretation mostly says it's Ismail. Only Tabari, one of the greatest Muslim scholars, said it's Isaac. So this is a debate. Again, you can see here already the monopoly. Everybody wants a monopoly. So, and then Abraham was buried in the Machpelah cave. This is in Hebron, a cave which became later a mosque, El Ibrahimiyya, after Ibrahim. And Muslims call it El Khalil, after Abraham the friend. Hebron is after Abraham, and their tradition is that he was buried there by his two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, together. So you have here discrepancy. Now, Jews, their attitude, this is a true religion. They don't look beyond what happened in India, in China, in other places, cultures that preceded Judaism. Yeah, cultures in Egypt. No, we are the first, and we, being monotheistic, and so on and so forth. So we have the full revelation of the Almighty. Christians don't. Muslims don't. Of course, Christians and Muslims think the other way around. but no, it's all ours. Now, the fight is, I think, very tense with Christianity more than with Islam. Because, first of all, it's a fight in the same house. Jesus was Jewish. And I expect that if they had some, at the time, good rabbis, he would be part of he would be a reformed Jew or something, because he was a rebel. But they were very tough, and they excommunicated him. And then you had a great religion called Christianity, an international religion. Jewish is a tribal religion. This is international, Islam too. And especially since Christians blame Jews for killing Jews. Now, the Vatican changed in 1980 the position, but they can, and this is a very, very heavy accusation. The Jews couldn't live with it very, very, very easy. So this is why you had this hatred, and about Islam, less so. Although, again, the same argument. No, we have the revelation, the true revelation. Islam saying, no, we have the full revelation. But there are some common features between, I'll come to it later, between Muslims and Jews. Monotheism, pure monotheism. Christianity has, sorry, I hope I'm not offending anybody.
Everybody is dead, actually.
Christianity, the Trinity. Jesus, the Son of God. No, for Muslims and Jews, this is, no way, terrible. So there is I'll come to it in a later stage, but there is more affinity. To give you just one simple example, Jews are not allowed to pray in a church. If there is some problem, with the synagogue. But with the mosque, yes. There is more affinity, and I know it from my own childhood. When the way my parents talk about Christians, as if there's a Satan. I go out of it, thanks God. And about also Muslims, when I decided to go and study Islam and Arabic and Middle East, you know why I decided it? Because instead of Jewish issues, because Jewish issues are too complicated for me. And my parents came from East Europe with this heavy, how can I say, baggage of anti. And they say to me, what are you going to study? The Arabs, Islam? What is these people? Do they have any culture? Anything? They were so ashamed, they told their friends, Moshe studies diplomacy. After I bought them a PhD from Oxford University, they changed their mind. But yes, this was the outlook. Also with others, I told you on the way some of these stories. So now, Christians are less involved in this kind of debate. They're more mild. They're not so, as far as I know, and I know very little about Christianity. I know the Quran. I know of course, the Jewish sources. They are more mild, and yes, they believe that Abraham got passed over his ideas and his religious beliefs to Jesus. So Jesus is a son. And Jesus is Jew, so was a Jew, so he's a descendant of Abraham, but it's less. But with Muslims, it's more important. As I said, the main conflict is there. With Muslims, I read the Quran. And Abraham is mentioned there numerous times. Again, I cannot tell you for truth, but I would say that is more important to Islam than in Judaism. Incidentally, Musa, my name Moshe, you know, I have no pretensions, incidentally. He is mentioned in the Quran. I was sitting with some Saudi scholars in a conference. We talked about it, and they said, you know, how many times Musa is mentioned in the Quran vis-a-vis Muhammad? I didn't know. I thought Muhammad was. No, Muhammad 30 times, 35. Musa 130. Yeah, which shows you that is very sacred. And Ibrahim even more. For them is a awwal al-Muslimin, the first of Muslims. And they believe in it until this very day. Hanif, a true monotheist. Very, 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 very strong belief. And again, not sure, but my sense of comparing the text is more important in Islam. And as I said, there are also a mentioning of all the prophets. Because they believe Abraham, Noah, Moses, Isaac, everybody is there in the Quran. Jews don't mention, but for the very reason that the Bible came further. But there could be some other interpretation later. No, very little. Yes, there were, but not very much. So Islam, and I'll elaborate later, accept Muslims, Jews and Christians as having part of the revelation, but not the full revelation is Muhammad. This is why it's the true religion. Yes, there is a space for Jews and Christians, but as I would say second class, not citizen, because this term didn't exist at the time, you know, subject or whatever, and I'll elaborate it. So this is the approach of Islam, and to this time it's still true. And again, the word Islam is from Islam with surrender to God. There are different interpretations about Islam, but this is one of them, which is a very nice one. Now, the issue, there is another issue which is related, I mentioned it earlier, about Ismail or Ishmael. And this is also very interesting to show you also the ambiguity, the ambivalent approach to him. I mean, in the Quran, very important, he, according to the Quran, the tradition, he and Muhammad alayhi salam, went and built the Kaaba together, then Al-Aqsa together. Again, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. People believe in it, especially about Al-Aqsa. Al-Kaaba, of course. Al-Aqsa, they built it together because there is a debate about Al-Aqsa when it was built and so on and so forth. So they believe in this too. As I said, the Jews have an ambivalent attitude to. On the one hand, in the Bible, yes, Ismail is the son of Hagar, and Isaac, and the brother of Isaac, and they were brother. But there is already in the Bible a connotation that he was a wild person, very aggressive. And nowadays, you have religious Jews who already said, yes, these Arabs, they've been wild from the beginning. Desert people. They wanted to kill and this and that. And this is Hamas, this is PLO. Can you imagine? Goes to this evidence. Yani. Yeah. But there is another side to it. And you'll hear about it later, that throughout the ages, Jews were better off in Muslim countries than in Christian countries. Much more, for various reasons that I'll elaborate. And there were Jewish rabbis, many of them, not all, there are some exceptions. Many of them said the kingdom of Ishmael in Hebrew is benevolent, is good for us, is moderate, much better than the kingdom of Edom, E-D-O-M. Edom means Christianity. It was true. Also, there is, well, over the centuries, some sort of alliance between Muslims and Jews vis-a-vis Christians. Not always, but this was really the alliance. You had a kind of a sort of pyramid, triangle of relations, Muslims, Jews and Christians. Muslims and Jews were very hateful, not only for religious reasons, also economic reasons. And they were fishing for the support of the Muslims. And by and large, Muslims supported. Although in the Quran, I'll show later, Muslims are treated better than Jews. Although Christians are treated by Islam better than Jews, although they are not pure monotheists. But Muhammad, to the extent that he wrote the Quran, and didn't get it from the Almighty, as Jews got it in the Sinai from the Almighty, which I have some doubts, let's say. It says, that the Quran is very, very important to everybody. And now, about the Jews, as I said, they have some good views about Islam over the centuries. Now it's changed. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, there is some sort of a hidden alliance, sometimes an open alliance between Islam and Judaism vis-a-vis Christianity. Despite what happened in the Quran, why? I'll show it later. Because politically, security-wise, strategically, Christians in Muslim countries posed a potential threat. Because they were more numerous than Jews, and they were related and linked to Christian powers who wanted to destroy Islam, starting with the Byzantines, the Crusaders, the Russians, you name it. So there is this affinity between Muslims and Jews vis-a-vis. But of course, it's more complex than this. Now, if you were, you'll stop me when you want the question period, because
Question will come later on after the coffee break. We'll continue.
Okay, tell me. First.
We have time.
Okay. Now, Jerusalem, I love Jerusalem. I live there. I was born in Tel Aviv, but after I came to study in Jerusalem. This was the only university at the time. When I was in the early 20s, we had only a university in Technion in Haifa, which is a sort of MIT of Israel. So initially it looks to me very cold, suspicious, heavy, with the stones. Tel Aviv is open, near the beach, I changed my mind. I fell in love with Jerusalem, and also, friends and kids. And I have this privilege, I must tell you, to go, even now, to the Al-Quds al-Sharif, the Arab side of it, the old city, and not only the old city, and I have Palestinian friends, and we sit coffee, we have the shisha, the nargila, we talk about politics. Not good news, but we agree, no doubt about it, but we are very few. As I mentioned here earlier, the thing. So it's open, again, you think yourself, why? So holy to everybody. You see priests and ulama, and muftis, and imam, and rabbis, in different colors, very colorful, no doubt about it. But they don't hug one another. They spit on one another sometimes. Even Christians within themselves, unfortunately. Jews and Christians, and you have the knifing phenomena. It's a terrible atmosphere. And half of the Israeli police is there to guard. It's absurd. But it happens because, again, in my opinion, there is no strategic thinking. Especially in Israel. I live there, and also Israel has power. Israel is the most powerful country in this region. Israel can afford to be generous. Israel is not generous. As Churchill used to say, in victory, magnanimity. Israel occupied this thing. Why not be more generous? No. And think that there is no military solution. And you know the slogan in Israel, if it doesn't work by force, apply more force. And very few people, you mentioned I was an advisor. At that time, I was labor leaders because the Likud wouldn't touch me. But again, this was a set of mind to show we are strong. And it goes back to the debate between Ben-Gurion and Sharet and others. What is the policy? Retaliation, strong and so on. They will, or the iron wall of Jabotinsky, strong Israel. Yes, maybe it was true at the time. Now Israel is the most powerful country in the world, in this region. And according to foreign press, Israel has also the nuclear capability. Nuclear program. I didn't see it, but I believe it is it's there. And Israel can afford to be more generous. No, Israel doesn't have enemies. Egypt is a friend. Jordan is a friend. Peace relation. Almost with Syria. Only the Palestinians. And yes, there are dangers, Hamas. But even Hamas, we can talk to them. You talk to your enemies, you don't fight them. And they also want, they are not very friendly to Israel, but they are ready to have hudna with Israel. Hudna is an Arabic term, Islamic term for truce, for ceasefire. Why not? Why Israel wants a recognition, also from the Arab, full recognition as a Jewish state. Did you recognize Israel as a Jewish state? India? No. America? No. Nobody. Why should the Palestinians recognize it as a Jewish state? It's an obstacle. In my opinion, it's an obstacle. So this is the thinking. Yes, there are other people like me and others, but they are now becoming traitors. So maybe I'll ask for asylum here.
You're not better either.
You have your prime minister is a good friend of Netanyahu, no?
Exactly.
Oh. From bad to worse.
Exactly.
At any case, so the thinking is in Israel. Now, I was carried away. Jerusalem, which I love, and we are talking. You cannot imagine all this problem. Is the old city of Jerusalem, and the Haram Sharif, the Temple Mount, which is part of it, all 1 square kilometer. That's all. And it can lead to a war, a new Armageddon. 1 square kilometer. That's all. 30,000 people live there. Muslim, Christians, and Jews. They can live together, and some of them do. But this can be a big explosion. 1 square kilometer. And the Haram Sharif is also very, very little. And the problem is that, the Church of, the Sepulchre Church, Holy Sepulchre, is about away from the Haram Sharif. At Haram Sharif, you have the two most important mosques, Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. They call it by mistake the Omar Mosque. No, it was built by Abdul Malik. But as a Dome of the Rock, beautiful. You must come and visit. But visit me too, but not all of you together, just one by one. And you see and then the temple. And again, there is not there is no very, very clear-cut proof that the temple was there. But again, most Jews believe in it, and even Muslims. There is a debate among Muslims. Sorry to brag, I met not only Israeli leaders, I met Arafat, Irhamu, and Abu Mazen. He said, no, Moshe, there was never a temple there. The temple, where was the temple, I asked? In Nablus. Any evidence? No. Anyway, he brought a piece of paper, a clipping. Now, the others, again, very good, you probably know Sari Nusseibeh. Yeah. Sari Nusseibeh is an ex-president of Al-Quds University in Jerusalem. Very, very, very fine person. And he believes, yes, there was a temple there. The Solomon temple, Suleiman. Yes, and many Muslims believe in it. Others don't. You see, this is. Now, even if they believe, they say they shouldn't build it again. Why? Because it means the destruction of the mosques. And not a growing number of the Jews want to do it. They say it. Until recently, people were ashamed to say it. Now, no shame. They say it openly. Not all, few, but they're going. There are now 20 organizations of the temple. They are preparing the artifacts, the altar, the clothes of the Levites, of the priests, the sacrifices. Why? And also, there is, I hope you don't have it here, red heifer, red cow is very, very important. Because you need, no, I'm not joking. In order to build the pentiment, you have to purify it. And you purify this site with the ashes of a red cow.
With the ashes?
Ashes of the red cow. I know that you grow here cows, and I hope you don't have a red one, but really full red. They almost bought one in New Jersey for $1.5 million, but somebody discovered some black thing there, so crazy. Now, and they want to, this 20 organizations that started with one, maybe you remember, I had a student who was the first, some of my students, I failed with them. He was Gershon Salomon. He was the first leader of the guardian of the temple. It was it was such a dissonance. He was a nice fellow, but crazy. Majnun. Because he was so... and then he was the first, but nobody paid attention to him at the time. And now we have 20 of them. And they are powerful. And they get money from the government. And the government doesn't do very much to stop them. And there are all kinds of attempts. And then what they want to, again, sorry, don't report to they want to build a butchery. What is it? But it's to slaughter sheep and this. Why? You have to look at and Judaism is a great religion. So many values. The Ten Commandments. Why not worship the Jerusalem, the upper Jerusalem, rather than down Jerusalem, of sacrifice, of cows? People don't distinguish. For them, land is more important than human beings. Stones are more important than humans. No, this is not the way to do it. What happened to the Jews? They are very successful all over the world. When it comes to Israel, maybe the sun drained their brains. And many are so stupid. Anyway, if I be in jail, you're going to visit me, yes? At any case, I'm not the only one, but many academics, and this is why I'm so surprised that many academics join the BDS. Because academics in Israel, not all of them, but many of them, you know them very well, are the allies of reasons, of more people who want to make change. I'm not speaking about the government, but the academia. This is the idea of the idea of the academia, to be open, to have discussions, to be have, great ideas about it. Now, Jerusalem, as I said, it's about 30,000 and so on and so forth. For Jews always argue, this is the only city for Jews. They ignore the Jebusites, who were before the Jews. Okay. Now, the first time, 3,000 years, this is our only capital. And the proof, Muslims never had a capital of Jerusalem, which is true. Also, Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran, which is also true. But Al-Aqsa is mentioned, and Beit al-Maqdis, which it's something like Jerusalem. And again, not 1.5 billion believe that Jerusalem is also a part of Islam, Christian Islam. But they argue, no, it's not in the Bible and so on and so forth. So Jerusalem is the holy city and also the capital of Israel for 3,000 years. Muslims have Mecca and Medina. Christians, Rome and Constantinople. So they have their own holy places. This is ours. We don't share it with them. And as you know, it was the temple was destroyed twice. Now we are going to rebuild it, and other things, of course, as you know, Jews pray towards Jerusalem. Muslims also initially, I'll come to it in a minute, pray towards Jerusalem, and
minutes we can stop, then wait.
When a few minutes? Okay. In the prayers, I used to be religious many years ago. Don't tell. You have a chief rabbi here? Don't tell him that I went astray. And but I know the prayers. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. I was the other day in a wedding in Israel. You know what they do? The bridegroom, yes, before he kisses his friend, he has to smash a glass. I don't want to tell you my stories about it, but but I smashed it more than once. Anyway, in any case, when you smash it, you pray to Jerusalem. You mention Jerusalem in the prayers, in the ceremonies. If I forget thee, Jerusalem, my right hand will wither. And it's there, so it's very, very important. But don't ignore others. And now, for the fact of it, as I mentioned earlier, it was a Jebusite party, was controlled by the Jebusite, Melchizedek and Adoni-Tzedek, and he was a very peaceful fellow, and he leased the land to the early Jews to build their own temple, and 2000 BC. But and I'll come to it in a minute. He was seen by the Palestinians as the first Palestinian king, because they argue, Palestinians, again, it's a myth that Jebusites, Canaanites, Amorites, Gilead, all of them were Arabs. They don't have any proof, especially with the Jebusites. They were from Hittite origin, not Semitic even. But academic issues, scholarly, would not interfere with either Muslims, Jews, Christians. So I'll stop here, and then
we will take about half an hour break for a coffee there, for a tea, and then we'll assemble here at 5:30, please, for the second lecture. Thank you, Moshe.
Thank you. And when do you have questions and answers?
6:30.
Okay. Well.